So we are Team 1, and in this presentation we are analyzing the research paper Swipe Left for Identity Theft, an analysis of user data privacy risks on location-based dating apps. So in this presentation, we'll first go over the motivations of the paper, followed by the proposed solutions, then the evaluation of the solutions. Then we will do an analytical reflection, discuss future directions of the paper, and any unanswered questions we were left with. So first, talking about the motivations of the research paper. In this paper, 15 popular location-based dating apps are analyzed to determine privacy risks associated with sharing data. So the first motivation is to analyze what private information an adversary is able to obtain about someone who is using a location-based dating app. So how easy is it for them to create a profile? What personal data is shared by the apps, such as locations, sensitive attributes, whether there's intended versus inadvertent data sharing. So that means which sensitive data is intended to be shared and which is shared inadvertently, like an API leaks. Another motivation is to determine how privacy policies of these apps provide users with information about personal data collection and potential leaks. And the main goal of this paper is to improve privacy precautions by the apps and prevent future data leaks. Next, moving on to proposed solutions. In this paper, the researchers provided 4 solutions that can be done to protect user privacy and prevent data leaks. So the first thing that the researchers suggested was to harden APIs to avoid inadvertent data leaks. And this can be done by limiting exposed endpoints, enforcing access control, controlling API responses so no unnecessary attributes are sent in API responses, and preventing trilateration to prevent the adversary from getting a user's exact location. And this can be done by applying spatial cloaking. The second solution the researchers suggested was making it difficult for attackers to gather data. And this can be done by requiring more info from an adversary or a user, such as getting the phone number and email, verifying the authenticity of the user by doing face verification, API request verification, having them sign messages. Increasing detection is another way by detecting fake or shifting locations, detecting malicious accounts, as well as doing rate limiting. However, the only issue with this solution is that it is difficult because this will make legitimate users have to share more data as well, which will defeat privacy goals. The next solution the researchers suggest was that users should have visibility and control over what they share with others on the app. So the first thing that should be done is that profile data should be hidden by default, and users should have to consciously enable sharing information or share it with the person they're speaking to in the second phase of dating. Another thing that can be done is ask about sharing location. So this is where the app would clearly and repeatedly ask users if they want to share their location. And finally, users would only see verified accounts and be seen by verified accounts, which would improve visibility and control. The last solution that the researchers suggested was to minimize the data collected, which is the most effective strategy, because if you don't collect data in the first place, it is impossible to leak or expose the data, which would increase privacy protection substantially. And popular apps such as Tinder already don't collect sensitive data. They only provide approximate locations and they don't collect sensitive data attributes, and yet it is still a very popular app, so this is something that can be done.
As noted on the last slide, the authors propose a few solutions to the privacy concerns and risks on location dating apps. The 3 main ones were increasing user control, minimizing the amount of data required, and adding APIs to prevent data leaks. The paper evaluates these solutions positively due to the fact they are practical, they directly address the root causes, and they showed real-world effectiveness. With minimizing the amount of data required, it is shown that many of the privacy risks that users face on these dating apps stem from excessive data collection and unnecessary exposure. Reducing the amount of data needed to be on these apps would directly minimize the attack surface. It is also shown that the most severe privacy violations, came from accidental API leaks, not from what the user had actually shared. Strengthening APIs therefore would target the actual source of the most dangerous vulnerabilities on these apps. With all of the solutions, they also showed real world effectiveness. They wrote that after they disclosed these issues to several platforms, several of these platforms made updates to their apps, and it was actually shown to be useful and work in real system. Overall, the paper concludes that these measures significantly enhance the user privacy and reduces the risk of stalking, harassment, identity misuse, and actual physical harm. My analysis of this paper: with the problem, I think the paper highlights a very real and serious problem in the real world. Dating apps are super popular now in this day and age with technology, where there is little to no thought space for people to actually meet and connect, and literally 8 out of 10 people meet their partners on dating apps. These apps actually expose personal, sensitive, and even location data in ways that the user do not think they're signing up for, nor do they expect. The article shows us that location based dating apps pose a risk that can cause the users to be stalked, harassed, and even lead to physical harm of their users. I think that the problem is defined within the paper. And when it comes to the idea and proposed solutions, I find the proposed solutions to be well balanced. It doesn't remove the main functionality of these dating apps, which rely on sharing information, but instead there are ways to reduce the risks, like again, like minimizing the amount of data collected from the users that reduces the amount of information shared without being like no information at all, because they still need to share information to meet people. They suggested solutions that aim to minimize user vulnerability, like adding the APIs. It is also noted that most of the most of the data leaks are actually not due to the users or whatever the user do, but it's actually due to this accidental API leaks, which the users can do nothing about. So the app owners or the platforms do need to address that back end security in order to make the experience a more enjoyable one for the users. And I do think that the paper accurately evaluated these proposed solutions as effective. However, I would want them to measure the long term effectiveness after implementation. I feel like it is common sense to say like the less data you collect from a user, the less risk it poses for their data to actually be leaked. But at the same time, like how sure we like even with the little data that we collect, how sure we that that would not lead to attackers finding more and more, like it's gonna open a can of worms and lead to them finding more and more data on these users. But overall, I do think that they evaluated these proposed solutions correctly and they would be effective in the real world as they have also shown. Thank you.
So now that we've seen the findings, the next step is to look at where this research can go from here. So we have the feature duration. Um, First one, we have expand analysis to move dating app, including smaller regional or niche platform. Investigate real world exploitation of location and data leaks by attackers. Study long-term user tracking risk across multiple app and platforms. Explore stronger technical defenses, such as improved API hardening and encryption. Also evaluate user awareness, behavior, and privacy decision making in dating apps. We have developed automated tools to detect hidden data leaks and profiling risk. We also have examined regulatory or policy-based solution for enforcing better data protection and analyze cross-app identity leaking. So this research gave us a strong foundation, but it also leaves us with critical question we'll still need to explore. So I have some unanswered question here. The first one is, how often are these privacy vulnerability actually exploited in real world? Do user fully understand the amount of data they're exposed to on dating apps? How effective are existing privacy setting in protecting sensitive information? Can an app balance strong privacy protection with the need for matching accuracy? Uh, what additional risk emerges when users have accounts across multiple platforms? How can regulation better ensure transparency and enforce safer data practices? Are a certain group more vulnerable to tracking or harm? And what new privacy leak might appear as dating apps add more features in the future? So overall, this research shows that the convenience of modern dating apps often comes with hidden and serious privacy risks, and without stronger protection, user may unknowingly expose sensitive data that can be tracked, linked, or misused. Um, the biggest takeaway is that user personal safety is directly tied to how well apps handle location and identity data. Even small leaks can create big risks when combined with the attacker's technique. So on here are some resources that we use. The first one is the research paper itself, and the two extra one are those that we found really helpful as well. Thank you.